at all the wonderful things that he was doing. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. Grace, peace, hope, and love to you from the God who was and who is to come. Amen. So, does this feel like your life? Are your prayers bouncing off the ceiling? You feel like you're calling out to God sometimes and there's absolutely no response? Or are you feeling overload? There's just stress, and when you turn around, maybe a little bit more stress. And there's all this stuff coming at you all the time. Do you wake up with a sense of anxiety? Do you wonder what's going to happen with the future of our world? Well, for 4 easy payments of $49.95, here's what I want to say. I think we are in a time of some real cultural and societal malaise. I think that there's some bouncing off the ceiling of our prayers, and I think that there's some struggle that happens inside of us. I know as a pastor, I continually run into folks who are saying that they're just really, really tired. And so I want to talk about that. I want to talk about spiritually speaking, and that you might be interested in the answer. Here we have in Isaiah 58 an interesting recasting of the Sabbath. And so today I want to talk a little bit about Sabbath and what it really means and how it can become a great help for each of us. Isaiah says, "Is this not the Sabbath that I choose?" He says, "Do this, if you remove the yoke from among you, the pointing of the finger, the speaking of evil. If you offer food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness and your gloom will be as noonday." If you eat good things, then you will probably be more healthy. If you exercise, then you will be in better shape. If you treat other people well, you probably might have more friends. If you take care of the poor, and if you stop speaking evil of one another, then your light will shine. That light that might seem dim right now. We ought never forget, ever, that most of the world does not live in the condition that we do. We forget that the holy exists in all people. Even in this mother with her child, a Muslim from the Rohingya community, who is without nation, without place to be, and this artist has recast her as the Holy Mother of God. So what is else? Isaiah also has more to say about that. He says, "If you keep your feet from breaking the Sabbath and from doing what you please on my holy day, then you will find joy." Once again, we have an if, then. If you choose to observe the Sabbath, then your life will come back to you. You'll find joy. I think that you can tell the spiritual challenge of any culture by which commandments we are encouraged to break. And I believe in our culture, we're commanded to break 2 of the 10, coveting and Sabbath keeping. We're taught to just keep working. So the Sabbath, what is it? Why is it important? I was always taught, remember the Sabbath day meant go to church. That was what my confirmation teacher taught me before I dropped out of confirmation, but that's another story. I was taught that remembering the Sabbath meant that you go to church. But I want to tell you something. If you go to church, as you are, good thing to do. I'm not against going to church. It's kind of an occupational hazard for me to say that. I'm not against you going to church, but if you leave here and you decide that you're going to go tackle all those emails from work, or you're going to make all those extra phone calls that you can do some business, and I understand we live in a different time, but if you're going to leave here and go back to work, you're not catching it. You're not catching what this whole thing's about. In fact, it's not just about you and your happiness or me and my happiness. It's really about society and how we work together, or more to the point, not work together. What if I'm going to try and reframe a little bit for us the idea of Sabbath as an economic necessity, right? What if the Sabbath was more about how our economies work, and that it brings peace and joy to all people when we choose to have a proper balance of work and rest? So, modern economic rules. First of all, there's the rule of scarcity. Resources are scarce. And then on the other side of the resources are scarce, there's an unlimited. The only thing that's unlimited is the appetite that people have for goods and services. So if you have scarce resources and an unlimited appetite, then what's going to happen is then you have to have an economy that grows and grows and grows, even if it means that you're going to outstrip the resources of dear Mother Earth. And so we end up working harder and harder for longer hours as a way to try and get ahead. And that's not a modern phenomenon. That's always been true. You see, if we all work a certain number of hours, if we all have certain times where we're going to agree to stop, then no one has a chance to really get ahead in those times. But that's exactly why God says this is not a 10 suggestions, it's a 10 commandments. And this is a commandment. You need to stop. Meanwhile, Sabbath economics, as we find in the story of the manna that comes down from heaven in Exodus 16, says this: everything is a gift from God. It is abundant and given for all. Work is a good thing to be done by all who are able to do it. Hoarding, if you take all your manna and then hide it away to try and it rots. And so hoarding stinks, literally. And responsible consumption is faithful to God's generosity. So the question that we ask ourselves is, how much is my right share? To sort of combat that idea of unlimited appetite. And finally, the seventh day of rest is another gift of God and the whole purpose for life. We don't work for a living. We live for a living. We try and figure out our work should be meaningful. It should be our vocation and our calling. And yet, it needs to stop. And in this day and age with cell phones, cell phones are a blessing and a curse, right? The positive side is I'm always available. The negative side is I'm always available. And so we start to put on our work emails onto our devices, and we start to figure out, well, I just got to answer this text. I tell you what, I can't tell you how many times I've seen and been part of and participated myself in what were supposed to be human interactions between people at a table in a restaurant, and found us all sitting here on our devices and wondering what is going on. And the answer we always give is, I just got to catch this text, or I just got to catch this email. Big, big, big gift, I want to tell you. This is a secret. They won't tell you this when you go get it at the Apple store. Your phone has an off button. Check it out. And when you turn it back on, everything that you might have missed will come back. That's the whole idea of the Sabbath. The word Shabbat means to stop. It means to stop working. It doesn't mean go to church. It means to stop working and to do exactly what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Enjoying life. Seeing nature. Being with friends. Loving. Not having to accumulate today. Amos understood this. He saw the cultural greed that was part of it. And so when Amos rails against the people who are in the business centers saying, you wait, you say, when will the new moon be over that we may sow grain, or the Sabbath that we may market wheat, skimping on the measure, boosting the price, cheating the dishonest with dishonest scales, buying the poor with silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, and selling even the sweepings of the wheat. See, the sweepings of the wheat, the edges of the field, they belong to the poor. But if you continually work the edges of the field so you can maximize your profit, then you are stealing from the poor, according to God. And if you keep stealing every single moment to be able to pour back into your work, you're stealing from your community, because they also deserve to have you resting. Now we have this feeling, right? It's just business. right? It's not personal. It's just business. It's just how things go. But I want to tell you it's personal. It's personal to the community, but it's also personal to us. And it's why our prayers bounce off the ceiling. It's why we have no rest, and why our anxiety goes up and our sense of peace and community continues to erode. Here's the truth. The person with the most toys still dies. That's the truth. It's a hard truth. There's never once been a U-Haul behind a hearse, right? Once you're gone, you're gone. So, this is why we need to turn to our Jewish brothers and sisters to help us. At the beginning, on Friday evening, as the sun goes down, the mother of the house, and teaching the daughters of the house, they go and they light the candles, and then they bring the Sabbath light to their eyes. The lighting of the candles, especially in Orthodox Jewish communities, will be the last piece of work that is done. And then the food is prepared. There's time enough, and for 24 hours, you know what you're supposed to do? Be with your family. Nothing, exactly. Nothing. Be with your family, be with your friends, picnic, have a glass of wine, enjoy your day. Take a walk, hike, swim in the ocean. I want to show you this sort of sneak photo. These are people observing the Sabbath in broad daylight, out there in the park, having a picnic. And you might think, okay, so someone had to prepare all that stuff. It's like, yeah, you do it the day before. You grab some things together. But you know, if we just go ahead and turn off our news cycles, turn off our cell phones if we need to do that, turn off all the other distractions and just commit just for 24 hours. I'm going to be good for nothing. Every 6 days of the week, people pay me to be good. But today I'm going to be good for nothing. I'm going to sit and I'm going to enjoy and give thanks. That's what Sabbath really means, and why it is so desperately needed, I think, in all of our lives, myself included. And so Jesus had this story today. Jesus heals this woman who has been bent over, it says, for 18 years. And he heals her, calls her to stand up straight. And when a woman in that community stands up straight, see, she had this identity. I hate that she doesn't have a name in this story, that Luke doesn't give her a name. But she has an identity, which is the woman who was bent over, right? The crippled woman, the woman who could not stand up straight. And now she can. She has a brand new life. And the community is upset, but and it's horrible why they're upset. And with whom they're upset? They're upset with her. They say, why couldn't you have come on another day, not a Sabbath day? They don't understand that Sabbath is exactly for liberation. It's for getting rid of all the things that bind us. And so Jesus will heal on a Sabbath, and he calls them out. He says, you hypocrites. The word hypocrite is the Greek word for an actor. You are acting like you know what this is about. You're acting like you care about the things of God, but you don't if you don't care about this daughter of Abraham. Because now look at her. She's standing up and she's praising God, and she has been released on this Sabbath day. So a question for you and for me, a couple questions. What has you bound? What has bound you for years and bent you over? What has you unable to stand up straight? What has us as a church or a society, what has us doubled over? We don't seem to be able to stand up straight. What is it in your life that you can't stop? Why? What needs to just stop? Even good things, just for a while, to stop. And then how have we become disconnected from other people? From the people just across the border, or just across the street, or sometimes just across the hall in our own house? Whatever it is on this Sabbath day, come and just bring it to the compassion of Jesus. Just like the woman went to Jesus with her crippled back and he healed her, bring whatever it is that is binding you to this table. And as you take this bread and drink from this cup, let it heal you. And then practice Sabbath today. Here's how you're going to do it today. Eat the bread. Drink the cup. It's for you. Give generously to help people who are in deep human need wherever and however you do that. And stop working today. Walk to the beach. Have a picnic. Do absolutely nothing if that is what's calling you. Hammocks are beautiful inventions. Recommit yourself to a healthy balance of earning a living and living a life. So work and work hard and well, but then rest and rest fully. What we ultimately need and what God desires for us is to be balanced beings, where everything fits together and we can stand up straight.